عليه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the Art of Recitation program. I am enjoying it so much so that I want to start reciting the Quran from now. Okay, so I don't know how much are you, and I'm assuming inshallah bismillah ta'ala you're also enjoying, because, and this is from the miraculous natures of the Quran, subhanallah, that the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so amazing that every time you talk about it, every time you do tadabbur on it, every time you listen to it, it's something that will bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you are intending it to be the case that you want to come closer to Allah, then Allah will give you the reward into 10, into 100, into 700 times. And this is something what Shaykh Hashim Rahman mentioned, that the intention has to be clear and pure. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. Every action is because of his intention, and every man shall get what he intended for. And if we intend that we're trying to learn the Quran in order to please Allah, in order to come closer to Allah, and this can be, I want to understand the Quran so that I can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correctly, so that He can be pleased with me, this is the best way to go forward, inshallah, bismillah ta'ala. So we'll come back to the mashayikh and understand what are the steps that need to be taken in order for one to take this journey of learning Quran, inshallah. Shaykh Rahman, you mentioned about the intention. After the intention, we find that there are people who are of a very young age, 7, 6, 4, 5, I think 4 would be very young, so 5 years old, 6 years old, or 8 to 9, and they want to take the step in order to learn the Quran. Apart from having a teacher, what are the other things that they need to look before they start it?
When it comes to children, and mashallah, barakallahu, those people who have children, may Allah give blessing for their children, and may Allah bless them and guide us all and the parents as well. When it comes to children, majority of the work must come from the parents.
Parents?
Must come from the parents.
But is it not the case these days when a parent sends a child to a masjid or somewhere, and they just leave it that
parents often send the children to the masjid expecting them to come back as angels. We hope that, but hopes have to be attached to reality and productivity, right? The child spends, out of the 24 hours, 22 hours with yourself, or majority of his day with you. We send the children to the masjid, yes, for the guidance from the teachers, but the work, the support, the motivation, the emotional, all the kind of support that needs to come has to come from the parents. Even before going to learn the Quran, the adab towards the Quran, towards its teacher, towards the sha'air of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, towards
the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
All of these things must come from the parents. From there will be a good connection between the child and the teacher.
So there has to be a beginning.
Definitely,
okay.
Definitely.
But Ustad, there are 5 years old, there are 6 years old. How would they learn how to relate to the teacher?
Tamam. For that reason, it's also very important that the teachers are aware who they're dealing with.
That's the point, isn't it?
Right. So a teacher can't talk to a 5-year-old the same way he talks to a 15-year-old.
Yes.
And not the same way to a 25-year-old.
Yes.
So we as teachers, and those teachers as well, mashallah, who are teaching across the country, across the globe, we need to be very much aware of who we're dealing with, who our student is. And that's a very, very basic aspect of teaching. So the way we speak to a child, the way we treat a child, what we expect from children, has to be totally different.
And this is something which we find from the Sunnah of Prophet ﷺ.
Indeed.
That he would speak with the people according to their level, according to their understanding.
Exactly, 100%.
Yes. What else? So they have now, the parents have taken the step, okay, to teaching some respect, some adab. They need to do wudu, they need to make sure that they respect, they need to show. What else can they do it? For example, how is it the responsibility of the parents that apart from them sending them to the masjid or somewhere to learn, what else can they do? Do they need to still spend time at home with them or something, or no?
Of course, definitely. I think Shaykh Ashik mentioned some very important points regarding, teaching the children adab towards the Quran, the adab towards the Quran teacher. I just want to add a few more things regarding that. Every parent, obviously every Muslim parent wants the child to memorize the Quran, whether it's a boy or a girl. And subhanAllah, we can see we're living in 2015 now, that subhanAllah, wherever you go, people are, mashallah, sending their children to Quranic institutes, masajid, to memorize the Quran. But one thing they need to understand is at home, they need to have a Quranic environment as well. That's very important. For example, every day they have to, whether they recite after Fajr or when they wake up in the morning, 9, 10 in the morning, they need to recite Quran. Another important point is that the parents, they cannot expect the children to memorize Quran while they are ghafil about the Quran.
They don't know.
They don't know Quran themselves.
So it's very important for them to know how to recite the Quran?
Absolutely.
Okay.
A father, he cannot expect his son to memorize Quran while he only knows few surahs from the Quran, Qisar al-Surah, 5, 6 surahs.
So
he needs to lead the way. He needs to sit down with the son. He needs to show the son how the Quran is being recited. Even in a lot of cases, you'll find parents, the Quran is not good, the tajweed is not good, but it doesn't matter. You still have to make that effort. I've heard stories like that as well in Egypt, where the father and the son, they were memorizing Quran together. They were competing.
Amazing.
How beautiful is this?
Yes.
The whole entire family getting together reciting the Quran.
And the same thing happens with the mother. And
exactly.
We had so many stories that with Imam Shafi and all that, how mother used to be with the children. How important is the role of mother? And how should these children deal with their mother? This is something that needs to be elaborated.
The role of a mother, subhanAllah, in any human's life, despite being a Muslim or non-Muslim, is so vital that I don't need to speak about it. What a mother is to a child is, everyone knows.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Islamic education,
yes,
the teachings of Islamic principles, the Quran, whatever, the stuff that we study in relation to the Quran, the mother has to play a very, very important role, a leading role, a motivational role, a psychological, a physical support role. And the father as well,
yes,
but the mother more, because the mother tends to spend more time with the child.
Because the children are more attached to the mother.
Exactly. Yeah? And it's just
because
normal.
Maybe she goes to work and then she comes home and they still relate to the mother more.
Just regardless of what the reasons are, the child is always more attached to the mother because that's where he came from.
Yes.
So it's biological, and at the same time, it's, subhanAllah, it's something emotional as well. The mother, mashallah, needs to have a very good akhlaq herself so that the children can pick it up. I'll give you a few good...
When you say akhlaq, the etiquette.
Etiquette. So for example, we think that we expect our children to speak with respect to others, while we amongst ourselves speak with a lack of respect.
Yes.
In, for example, our Bangla language, we amongst ourselves, we say, Tui tukar khoria. That's the way you say, we just use the very basic sort of without respect words amongst ourselves. And then when it comes to the children, we have a different standards for them that you need to say afne.
Which means up.
Yeah, up, exactly.
And out of respect.
But how are they supposed to learn that? They haven't heard it. That's what I'm trying to say. So we need to, for the sake of the children, even if it's just for the sake of the children, we need to speak with respect to each other.
So basically the discussion that is taking place between the father and the mother, or grandparents, or their brothers and sisters, in front of the children, it has to be of respect, because if they see that, they will start implementing.
Exactly. The children copy no one else more than their own parents. You will notice that this is a basic fact of life. And if the parents do anything, whether it's good or bad, for that reason the hadith comes that every single human is born in fitrah, and it's the parents that make it whatever it is. So the effect of parents is undeniable. I just wanted to say as well that when it comes to the parents and the adab and akhlaq being taught by the parents, is that when it's the children in the home that they're brought up in, that has a significant effect. So the relationship between the father and the mother, how they see them talking to each other.
So the family as a unit.
Exactly. And their principles, how they treat the Quran, how they treat Islam. Is it a side thing, part-time thing? Is it a Jummah day thing? Or is it something permanent?
Yes.
And that will have an effect on the child as well.
And all of this we study and we learn that all of it is to be done to build that higher moral, ethical ground for the children. It is not that don't go to the school or something. It is that it brings that character. When you recite the Quran, you prepare yourself. You make wudu, and you start and you listen to your teacher the same way you would listen to your teacher in the school or something. So it's building that character in that child. Would you elaborate on it, Imam?
Yes, of course, definitely. The parents play a big role in the child's life. Like he said, Sheikh Ashik, whatever the parents do, the kids will automatically imitate the parents. And it's very important when it comes to especially learning our deen, when it comes to memorization of the Quran, the parents, they have to lead the way.
Okay.
Every parent must have like a diary for the child. And also they need to, I'm not saying every day, but even if it means once every week, going up to the teacher and finding out, okay, what's my child doing?
So that basically liaising with the teacher or something?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the dua?
Dua is very important. As the Prophet said, ad-du'a'u mukhul ibadah.
Yes.
Dua is the essence of ibadah.
Yeah.
Dua is, every parent that they want their child to memorize Quran, a day cannot go past in their life that they didn't make dua for that child. Dua can work miracles. Every mother or father, they have to make dua.
Because dua is accepted for that.
And also they have to teach their children to make dua as well. They need to teach their son or their daughter who is memorizing Quran how to make dua to Allah. Oh Allah, make it easy for me to memorize the Quran. Oh Allah, instill the love of Quran in my heart. And the parents need to make, oh Allah, instill the love of the Quran in my child's heart. Allah, make the journey of memorization of the Quran easy for him. Allah, give him the understanding of the Quran. So dua, without a doubt, that's one of the main, very big point.
Jazakumullah khair, Sheikh Ashik Rahman and Sheikh Muhammad Yahya. Sheikh Ashik Rahman, we were listening to the story of how the Quran was revealed. And at Ghar Hira, the cave of Hira, and the Prophet ﷺ then came, and then it started from there. What did the Prophet ﷺ used to do? Once the Quran was revealed to him, he would be in cave Hira, it was revealed to him, then later on he would be sitting down and it would be revealed to him. What would he do? And how was it, recorded by the companion? Would you elaborate on it, because we want people to learn?
MashaAllah. The Quran al-Kareem, and Sheikh Yahya explained the story very beautifully when Jibreel ﷺ came to the Prophet ﷺ. And from that story, one of the things that we need to notice is that when we say that you must learn the Quran with the teacher, that is the biggest emphasis of it.
SubhanAllah.
That the Quran is heart to heart, and hence the hugging so tight that he felt as though he can't breathe. Heart to heart, teacher to teacher, mouth to mouth. SubhanAllah. When the first set of ayat were revealed to him, Allah says in the Quran, لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به.
Yes.
إن علينا جمعه وقرآنه. That the Prophet ﷺ didn't have to try and memorize the Quran. It was automatically imprinted upon his heart. It was impossible for him to forget it, because there was some sort of tabligh, of da'wah, of conveying the messages upon him. And for him to have that precise, the Quran in his heart is completely necessary. From there on, he taught the Quran, and what the message that had come to him, he taught it to those around him. So Khadija, radiallahu anha, was one of the first ones to hear it. Waraqa, who was a Christian monk, didn't manage to become a Muslim. He was one of the people that heard it. And
it was also because he mentioned, if I were to be alive,
exactly,
and because it wasn't clear or something, I would accept yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So from that moment onwards, when the Quran came, there was two aspects of its preservation. The oral transmission, the memorization of it in the mind, in the heart. And at the same time, there are those companions who had the responsibility, or who took the responsibility of writing it down.
So
it is always exactly.
So the Prophet ﷺ would every time the revelation would come, the Prophet ﷺ would mention it.
Exactly.
All the Sahabas would be there, but there are certain chosen Sahabas
exactly.
who could write.
Exactly.
They would write it. And
Kutab al-Wahi.
Kutab al-Wahi. They were the writers of the Wahi, as it was revealed.
Yeah.
Straight up they would write it.
They would write it.
And also memorize it, because all the Sahabas would memorize
exactly.
it. Okay.
So the Sahabas, they weren't always all of them present, but whoever was there, and then they would transmit it, they would convey it to each other. And obviously as the Ummah was growing, the transmission was happening more and more. Everyone taught it to each other. Some people came back to the Prophet ﷺ, came back to Abu Bakr, came back to Umar, and etc. etc. So there has always been that oral and that written transmission.
So both ways.
Both.
Well, there's no contradiction.
Exactly. And even if you take a step back, Lawh al-Mahfuz, if you take it in the literal context, okay, it was written down there, but at the same time it was orally transmitted by Jibreel ﷺ to the Prophet. So both have coexist all the time. So these scriptures, or these writings, be on leaf, be on parchment, be on carbon dating, parchment that's found in Birmingham University, whatever it was written down continuously. And obviously if you want me to carry on and say what happened later on, this memorization was happening and people were writing it down. And Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu was one of the most important scribes of the Prophet ﷺ, whom, when he accepted Islam, Prophet ﷺ asked him, do you know the language of the Jews? To Zayd ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu. And he said, no. He said, learn it because I don't trust them. In the sense of ilm, or in the sense of like the intellectual value of that time. And he said to him, learn it, and he learned it within half a month.
Within half a month.
Within half a month. And the other story is that he told him, do you know the language of Syrianiya? And he said, I don't know it. And he said, learn it because I need to communicate with these people. And he learned it within 17 days. Subhanallah. So this was Zayd ibn Thabit.
Allah had given him that, that gift.
That talent. And this is the same Sahabi who was later, at the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, assigned as the project manager, if you like, the leader of all of the project of compiling the Quran into a book form.
Yes, subhanAllah.
And this same person was again summoned upon by Uthman radiallahu anhu during his khilafah to make the one copy into 5. So that authenticity of that same person doing it
just carries on.
It just carries on. Besides the oral and the written transmission and the hundreds of Sahaba that memorized it, the Quran then reaches us through something called tawatur.
Before that, just so that people know. So when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned this Quran to the Sahaba, and we have like hundreds and thousands of them, and they're memorizing, and then we have quite a few of them, they are writing it. Okay, and then they are writing it, and some is here, and some is there or so. What is there that we find that gives a confirmation that it is the confirmed Mus'haf, it is the Quran confirmed recitation that was done? Was there a time when Prophet ﷺ reread everything that was supposed to be written? Was there anything like time, something like that also?
As you're aware, the Quran Al-Kareem was not revealed in the order that we have it today.
Yes.
For example, Surah Al-Alaq, the first 5 ayat were revealed first, and the last ayat was something else. And it was revealed at different times. But the order that we have the Quran in was summarized and revised to the Prophet ﷺ by Jibreel before his death. Exactly which ayat belong to which surah goes first, which surah goes second, which surah comes last. And this final version of the Quran, that as we have it today, was then again revised by the Prophet ﷺ with Jibreel in the last Ramadan before his death.
Twice. He read it.
Twice, exactly.
SubhanAllah.
So that form was complete then. And the Sahaba that were around him, they knew the exact order of how the Quran is supposed to be.
So basically it was before his death, he reread.
It was all finalized.
It was all finalized. He reread all of the Quran.
Exactly.
Jibreel alayhi salam, the Sahaba radiallahu anhu heard it. They compiled everything like that.
Exactly.
They knew this is how everything's done.
It was very clear.
And Prophet ﷺ approved it.
Of course.
This is how it is.
Exactly.
Jazakumullah khair. We will inshallah come back to these points more and more to look into it inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, viewers. As we mentioned, subhanallah, the more you talk about it, the more you want to go into it and learn about it, subhanallah. And this is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the kalam Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the clips that we would read, you would listen to it, is of Surah Al-Alaq. It's going to be one of the Imams that will be reciting inshallah, and his name is Sheikh Muhammad Husri, about whom we will talk more about inshallah bi'iznillahi ta'ala in our next program.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. خلق الإنسان من علق. اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى أن رآه استغنى إن إلى ربك الرجعى أرأيت الذي ينهى عبدا إذا صلى أرأيت إن كان على الهدى أو أمر بالتقوى أرأيت إن كذب وتولى ألم يعلم بأن الله يرى كلا لئن لم ينته لنسفعا بالناصية ناصية كاذبة خاطئة فليدع ناديه سندع الزبانية كلا لا تطعه واسجد واقترب.
بسم الله الرحمن